Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope everyone is doing well this evening. My name is Eric B. Horn, and if you're watching this live stream or if you're watching the replay, welcome to the Success Mind Shift. Okay, just as a 50,000 overview, um, I created this series based off of the fact that we are right around the corner of the 2025 graduates, which could be based off of how you are as a college senior. This can be a very exciting time, or it can be a very stressful time, right? Because you may be in a situation where you're cramming for these upcoming tests and you need to ace these tests to graduate. So, whatever your situation is, I thank you for taking time out of your extremely busy schedule so I can pour into you guys and point you in the right direction on some of the things that you can do, which is not always publicized, what you can do as a college grad to succeed, right? So, how do we even come about the success mind shift from student to performer? So, my last live stream, I introduced the success mind shift framework, which are high level, tangible things that you can start to do now. You don't even necessarily have to wait until you actually graduate. So you can start to position yourself to be the very best professional that you can be out of college. When I graduated from college, um, I just focused mostly on my academics, right? And focusing on my academics put me in a position where even though I got relatively good grades. I went with the model C's get degrees, and I know sometimes that's not a good model to go by, but relatively good grades. So I was very academically strong. I had a lot of book knowledge, I had a lot of theory, but I lacked the real world experience and lacked the real world understanding of what I was about to get into as a professional. To drill down even deeper than me, initially, I received my degree in information technology. And when I received my degree in information technology, my mentality was I got decent grades, I'm in technology, I'm going to get a job fresh out of college, which was furthest from the truth. To be very transparent, I didn't get my first real time job uh, a year and a half after I graduated. Now, I was working part time, so I was still bringing some money in. But to have a job that I worked so hard for and I can use my degree in, that was a very long stretch for me. And during that time, I understood what I was lacking or what I should have done either when I was actually a college junior. So I had 2 years to implement what I'm going to teach you guys today, or at least a part of what I'm going to teach you today, or even right after the college. Once again, I had that year and a half stretch, and if I tried to um, employ some of the mindset shifts that I'm going to teach you today, maybe I could have gotten the job faster. Who knows, right? I'm not the type of person that kind of turned back the hands of times and coulda, woulda, shoulda. How the beginning of my career played out the way it should have played out, right? And in actuality, I'm grateful for that because if it didn't play out the way that it did, I may not even be in the position right now to give you this information. So some of the things that I went through and I endured, I want to teach you guys so you don't have to go through it also, especially since There are so many graduates that are going to graduate this year. I don't have the exact number now or the estimated number, but I think it's one of the highest amount of graduates in a very long time. So pre-congratulations to those individuals that will be graduating, but buckle up, sit tight so I can kind of put you on to some information. So what we're going to talk about today during the Success Mind Shift is from student to performer. Once again, that is from student to performer. So what the core shift that I want to teach you guys today is you want to move from just learning for approval, meaning learning things and regurgitating that information back to your professor, proving that you know it to get a grade, to start to develop and create value through your overall performance. Once you take that tassel and move it from, was it right to left or left to right or whatever it is, once you start to get into the real world, your future employer or the professional world could care less what your GPA is. And your future employer could care less that you got all A's or you or a high level participate. At the end of the day, they want to know if you can do the job. Not only if you can do the job, can you do the job at a very high level with little to no supervision. The game has changed when it comes to how employers think and how they operate, right? They want to pay you a certain amount, aka your salary, based off of you doing a job for the organization. And let me also bring this to the forefront. If there's anyone on here that's, once again, is watching it through the live or will watch it at the replay, and if you are watching it at the replay, please put replay in the comments so I can engage with you. Your first job is probably not going to be the quote unquote dream job that you want, which is okay, right? Quick story time. So once I got my job, I was like most people who will be graduating this year and thinking that fresh out the gate, I'm going to get paid 70, 80, 90, $100,000. Do you really want to know? Or can anybody who's engaging kind of put in the chat how much you think that I made as an IT professional during my first job? Let me look at the chat and kind of see what some of the answers may be. Let me bring up the chat. Okay, you have some people that said, $60,000. Okay, that's a good answer. I have other people on Instagram saying I made $80,000. That's a great answer also. But, and I'm known for being transparency, my first IT job was $35,000. 35K, 35, comma, 000, which was a eye opener for me, but at the same time, it was a direct reflection not on me as a student, but also my level of performance, because this was my first job. I had very little experience. I had the grades, but I did not have the hardcore experience that I needed. And those are the key elements that play a part once you go after your first job. On a side note, if you are a college graduate and you don't have that much experience, try to gain some experience as soon as you graduate, because it will get to a point where the experience that you have in your overall career will be more of value than your actual degree. Not saying that your degree doesn't hold any value. You put a lot of time, effort, and energy into it. But once again, the workforce, they value and they reward performance, not based off of the grades that you have gotten as a recent college graduate. They don't care about your GPA. They don't care about a lot of the stuff that most people focus on in college. How well do you perform? Based off of your performance and based off of your knowledge plus your performance plus your experience, that will deem you your overall salary, right? So I just want to give you guys that punch in the gut in a sense, because it was a real punch in the gut for me once I saw that I can only make $35,000. I was grateful for that because that was a lot more than what I came from, coming from a part-time job to working a full-time job. But and I don't like to do this, but just for the sake of this live stream, if I could go back and turn back the hands of time, I would have networked with more people. And also, even though I was at college, I would have strategically either taken on projects or found a part-time job that I can leverage for my first full-time job. Once again, small pieces of the puzzle to create the big picture, right? So the overview of this Success Mindshift live stream or whatever you have you, Student for Performer, the biggest thing is many graduates, right? And I hope if you're looking at this, hopefully you'll have this, you turn off this mind shift as soon as you graduate. But as most graduates, when they do graduate, they still approach their overall job like school, meaning they wait for their employer to give them assignments, meaning they wait for the employer to give them a task to do. They give you very exactly what you need to do, aka a syllabus, to navigate through that particular course. They give you a schedule. When it comes to working a job, they're not going to, once you get into a job, it's a landscape of unpredictability, right? You have been brought in to solve a problem, and it's not as scheduled out as saying, okay, Monday at 10:30, this problem is going to happen, or Tuesday at 4:45, this problem is going to happen. It's very response based as opposed to knowing what to expect when you are in school, right? So having an understanding and knowing that will help shift your mindset to say, once you start your first job, it's going to be unpredictable. Only the knowledge that you have and hopefully some experience will help you solve problems. But also, it's a level of unpredictability, not only from a hard skill perspective, aka what you've gotten your degree in, but also the soft skills. How do you navigate through your environment? You know, what is your first 90 days are going to look like? What if you come across a boss that is very hands off when it comes to giving you direction? They just want the problem solved. These are some elements that aren't taught in school, but as you shift your mindset from a student, meaning you are waiting for assignments, you're being told what to do, to a performer and actively, or let me be more transparent. You are proactively looking for problems that you can fix in your particular area, because there are problems, but you may not be lucky enough for people to actually point these problems out for you, right? AKA, that's your job to seek out these overall challenges and solve them. This is what you are getting paid for. You're not getting paid for how smart you are. You are getting paid on how you can actually perform at the end of the day. That was a wake-up call for me once I did get my first job. And my very first boss, his name was Troy Hardiman. Troy was very helpful, but he was big on, which I'm very lucky. When he started to do this, when I first met him, I really didn't like him because I still had the mentality of waiting for somebody to tell me what to do, as opposed to actively finding challenges or actively finding ways to improve the job, the position, the department that I'm in. But he was big on empowering us to make our own decisions, even though initially I thought that he really didn't want to do his job. But now that I think about it, he was very actively putting myself in a position to move from the student mindset to the actual performer, right? At the end of the day, he told me this needs to get done, and he gave me the space. He gave me a long rope for me to work the problem, figure it out, make my own mistakes, come up with my own solutions, which initially empowered me to be the person that I am today, because I still take on that mindset based off of what I do in my business and my overall life. What can I do to perform at the highest level, as opposed to waiting for my boss or waiting for my wife or waiting for anyone to actually tell me something to do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still open to suggestions and I'm open to overall advice, and people still giving me direction because I still look for it. But once I have the direction, once I know what the goal is, I am laser focused on accomplishing what I need to do, aka operate at the highest level possible, right? So, based off of developing the mindset from student to performer, I'm going to give you some tangible things that you can start to do today to help you reprogram that mindset. Now, if you're looking at this and you are a college graduate, I do not expect for you to turn over this mindset at the flip of a switch. We are all humans and we've all been engraved at a certain level of behavior. That also goes with people who are in college, because in college, your life, once again, is telling people, your professors telling you what assignment that you need to turn in. You having a roadmap on the exact things that you need to do to be successful, right? That's the foundation of a school. No harm, no foul, but no one tells anyone, okay, you're going to have to leave that mindset behind and absorb this new mindset, right? So one of the key things that I did, and it took me a minute to understand this piece, right, is when it comes to when people say you want to set goals, right? You want to set, they say set SMART goals. You want to make sure that you have a project or a task that you want to get done for a certain outcome during a specific time. I get that. Goals are very important. And and in the midst of those goals, some people create to-do lists, right? What are some of the things that you have to do? And I still do this with a twist. Some of the things that you have to do on a day. Well, this is a receipt. Let me get that out there. What are some of the things that you have to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis so you can stay track of the things that you have? But the premise is not just having to-do lists, but you want to set something called impact goals, right? So how do you do that? Well, number one, you want to replace the finish my task list with deliver results that matter, right? What are the things that move the needle, right? Well, move the needle forward, right? What are the things that move the needle forward that helps you accomplish what your overall goal is? Once again, it's just not a task list. This is just stuff that you need to do. The mind shift is what do you have to deliver to make your results matter, right? Also, and I kind of touched on this before, having that the results that you want to deliver, you want them to be SMART. They say you want to have SMART goals, which is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. Timely. I almost forgot about SMART goals. Whew, boy, and timely. You still want to have that same framework, but once again, these aren't just tasks. These are the results that you want to deliver to your boss, your department, your overall organization, because results move the needle. Tasks are just things that you get done, right? That was the clear distinction for me, right? So you just don't want to have a task list. You want to have some sort of tangible list that you can use to measure the overall results that you want to bring to the organization, right? And an exercise that you can do is, and this is something that I can't take full credit for. This is something that I learned from Brian Tracy. Once again, some of the ideas that I have, I've come up with my own based off of my experience, but I'm going to give somebody their props if it's something that they have done that I have used to be successful. And one of the things that Brian Tracy said, even just from a mind rewiring standpoint, the goals that you want to deliver an impact on, I would highly advise you, especially if you're in the workplace, you write this out at the beginning of your shift, right? And then you write the list out again at the end, minus the stuff that you have accomplished. So in your brain, you are seeing movement, you are seeing results, especially based off of the stuff that was on the list at the beginning of the day and the stuff that's not on it, because the stuff that's not on the list at the end of the day means you've accomplished it. You've delivered some sort of results. That the biggest thing is you build overall momentum based off of that. So if you do that every time that you start your shift at work, and at the end of your shift, mentally you'll get to the point where you start to see movement. Now, this is something that's not going to happen overnight, but if you do this throughout the course of the first year, it'll get to the point where this habit, once again, this is a habit that you want to develop, the habit will start to be on autopilot, and your mind will not just go from the task or the things that you had to accomplish while you were in school, but what am I accomplishing that is moving the needle and delivering results to the organization? And as a side note, the stuff the stuff that you are delivering for high value, these are the things that you can use when it comes to your overall review. That's another thing that a lot of people, even mid-level professionals, they do not document the results that they are bringing to a department or an overall organization. So not only will this help you mentally, you can also use the same results that you have delivered as talking points in your annual review, right? The second thing is, and I talked about this during my live stream before, is the concept of the 70-30 execution rule. The 70-30 execution rule. So what is the 70-30 execution rule? So at a high level, 70% of your time should be spent creating results, having impact, not just getting tasks done, but what are you delivering that is moving the needle in your department and in your overall organization. So spend 70% of your time doing that. But then also you want to spend 30% of your time learning and refining what you are doing, not only in your position, but also within the department, which also paints a bigger picture, which in the organization. So 30% really isn't a lot of time if you schedule it the right way. But one of the biggest things that are detrimental to someone that has graduated, and this has happened to me until I had to kick myself in the face to get back on it, is learning, right? You have just spent the last 4, 5, maybe even 6, no judgment, years learning something and doing your best to master something to get a degree. But there is no rule saying once you graduate, you should cut off that hunger to learn or that thirst to learn. But a lot of people do. It could be based off of being burnt out. It could be just based off of the fact that people need a break. I don't know what it is, but you should still be learning. And the learning doesn't necessarily have to be the same way that you have been learning in school. You can learn from podcasts. You can go to YouTube University. You could go to your colleagues, or you can go to your old professors just to keep your brain moving in the right direction. But your brain and your time within your organization, once again, your performance should not just be solely on work, 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 work. You have to carve out time for you to learn, because the more you learn, the more you learn and the more you execute, the more results you deliver, and the more, I'm about to say desserts, I must be hungry, but the more results that you accomplish, the more value that you bring to an organization. That creates overall leverage, and it puts you at a higher level of being a valuable employee within the organization, right? But you have people so focused, tunnel vision, and just want to work, 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 work. I get that, but knowing the 70-30 execution rule, 70% of execution, especially if you're doing it at a high level and bringing, not just doing tasks, but being results oriented, you're going to move the needle. So also carve out that 30% of your time to learn more, which is key. One way to do this and put this into actual motion, it can be something as clear as you're planning out your day. And I hope as a professional working in an organization, you are just not, you are not just in a reactive state when it comes to your job. Hopefully you are planning out your day so you know exactly what you're going to be doing from the time that you walk in to the time that you leave. Now, there's going to be some caveats, some emergencies, some extra projects, but do not just go willy-nilly. Make sure that your day is very controlled. A great professional development guru, he said, don't start your day until it's finished. And that guru is Jim Rohn. Once again, I want to give people their props. But he said, don't start your day until it's finished. What does that mean? You want to make sure before you leave the office, make sure you have a very good understanding of what your day will look like tomorrow. Will it change? Monkey wrenches are thrown into play. Things will happen. But if you plan your day out the way you need to, you can easily divide up your day from learning to doing. Very easy, but you have to make sure that you have a very good understanding of what your schedule is going to look like. Consistency is key, but I don't want you to think that you had a bad day if you didn't spend 30% of your day learning. Some things happen, right? You may have to some days you may have to go 100% in executing, but still find ways to carve out that 30%. But once again, as you're looking at your Outlook calendar and your execution list, let me just call it that, divide it up and say, okay, here's the moments in time or the pockets of time today that I can actually learn something. I can listen to a podcast, or in some instances, you can possibly do both at once while you're listening to a podcast, while you're working. As you continue to get into your work groove as a new professional, you'll figure out the best way to intertwine both of them. But once again, spend 70% of your time executing and delivering results, and spend that other 30% of your time learning, right? And the last thing that really moved the needle for me, because if you're new, you're going to be spending at least the first 90 days learning the lay of the land. Maybe sometimes it takes even longer than that, right? One of the things that my old boss, once again, Troy Hardiman, told me, and this is my boss, he was telling me it usually takes people 6 months to a year just to get comfortable in their new job. 6 months to a year, right? And even as a seasoned professional, because you are walking into a new environment. You have to understand the lay of the land. You have to understand how the work comes in. You have to understand who are the people that can help you, who are the people that are a waste of time. It's a huge element that you have to learn while you are going into this new atmosphere. But you always want to have an understanding of the points that you put up on the board, either at the end of the day or even at the end of the week. So one of the things that I used to do on Friday, because Friday was relatively slow. Usually Friday, if I got off at 4:30, Friday at 2 p.m., things started to wind down, and you have more people talking about what they're going to do for the weekend and things of that nature. So if you do have a pocket of time, create something called a weekly wins report, right? That's a weekly wins report. Based off of everything that you have accomplished throughout the week, create a final list and reflect over the wins or the accomplishments that you've made throughout the week. That's something that will be key, because as you get into a new environment, you will be very lucky if you have a boss or a group of people that want to support you as the new guy or the new gal, right? There's something, I'm not going to say what this acronym means, but for anyone that's, and I haven't been in the military, but I've heard this statement a lot, and people have even said this at the job. If you are the FNG, right? I'm not going to say the first word, but the last two words are new guy or new gal. So it's the effing new guy, effing new gal. You fill in the blank with the F. I'm not trying to get banned off of this live stream. But if you are new, you're going to have to earn your keep. You're going to have to prove to your boss and prove to your teammates that you are a valuable professional. Once again, usually as while you are in school, being in school is more of an individual sport, right? It's you are the one working on your stuff. There's some elements where you would have to be working with a team in a sense, but you know, a good portion of the work you're doing by yourself, right? That shifts once you get into a professional environment because what you do may not get recognized. What you do you may not get the pat on your back or the great job that you got when you are in school based off of the grades that you brought in. So you need something that you can reflect on to say, hey, I am of value. Hey, I am putting points up on the board. Here's everything that I've accomplished. And creating this weekly wins report, this is something for you, right? This is not for your boss. It's not for your teammates. This is just something for you. So you don't feel like you have given an arm and a leg and a couple of toes and you aren't, that you are no value to the organization. You are, but in some instances, your teammates aren't going to say anything because you have to prove your worth. That's happened to me. That will happen to you as a fresh college grad to a professional. It's just, it is what it is. If there's someone on here who's played in a team environment, you are the rookie. With you being the rookie, there's some things that you will have to do that you may not get the accomplishment for. One thing that my current boss tells me, you know what your pat on the back is, or you know what your good job is? The check that you get every 2 weeks, which is very, very true, right? We're not working for free. We are working to get paid. But once again, getting the accolades and the great job, that may not even be the type of culture that you will have the job. And instead of you, and I'm not saying this is you, but I've seen some college graduates with the woe is me. They're not recognizing me. They're not saying thank you. And I get that. But at the same time, your thank you is your paycheck. And as quickly as you shift that mindset, now if people do say thank you and great job, hey, be grateful for that. But organizations pay you for a job, right? And a lot of organizations and the culture is just put your head down and get the work done, right? I don't promote that type of environment because you make sure you have to build your people up so they can get a better job. But I'm just telling you what some people want when it comes to your very first job, right? So once again, it's about 33 minutes over. I want to be 30 minutes, but for the guys, people that are still on here, thank you for your time. So once again, as a overview, once you graduate from college, you want to move from the student to performer mindset. And once again, the 3 things that you can do right now that are very tangible, you don't have to wait on anyone else, is once again, number 1, do not just create to-do lists, create something called impact goals. Create an impact goals list. What are the things that you can do to accomplish that will help you move the needle within your organization? Number 2, apply the 70-30 execution rule. Spend 70% of your time executing because that's what performers do. We execute at the end of the day. The execution may not always be a success, but your mindset is get the job done and figure out by any means necessary how to get it done, but still spend at least 30% of that time learning, growing, because the more that you learn and apply within the organization will help you hit those impact goals. And then last but not least, based off of the work that you're putting in, on Fridays or whatever day your work week ends, spend maybe 15 minutes, right? 30 tops, writing out your weekly wins report. What are the points that you put up on the board that week that help move the needle within your department and ultimately help move the needle within your organization, right? So I wanted to say thank you guys for your time, your effort, and your energy when it comes to understanding the success mindset as you move from a student to a performer. So if you guys had any questions, comments, concerns, because I'm streaming on YouTube, I'm streaming on LinkedIn, and I'm also streaming on Instagram. If you had any questions or needed any type of clarification based off what I talked about, feel free to put it in the comments and we can start the conversation there. And also, if you deem this valuable, I want you to put in the comments. The next thing I want to talk about is from the success mind shift is moving from a passive mindset, meaning waiting for direction from a professor, to a proactive mindset, which was clearly a game changer for me after I learned it based off of what Troy was trying to teach me. So if that's something that you wanted me to teach on also, feel free to put it in the comments and I'll be more than happy to do it. So once again, this is Eric B. Horn. Thank you guys again. Have a good evening.